recognized symbol of excellence for your entertainment.
It's not a punk band, it's new wave. It's a totally different head.
Welcome to Machino Music, the show that puts some music in Machino music, with your host, me, Brett Strong. Today on Machino Music, it's part 1 of my 20 favorite new wave albums. I'm a volcano ready to erupt. Good afternoon, everybody. My 20 favorite new wave albums. I did it with heavy metal, which was very, very difficult. This was not as difficult as my 20 favorite metal albums. There are a couple, you could argue here that they're not really new wave. But the thing is, new wave was always so difficult to categorize anyway. Because it's kind of more pop, and also more artists jumped on the new wave train. So you got a lot of one-off albums that I felt like, I kind of want to include those. So you might see a few of those on this list. And, like I said in the intro, I'm a volcano ready to erupt. I'm in some kind of mood today while I'm filming this that, feel a little wacky, okay? And I don't do drugs, so this should be really interesting. I learned actually today that I have a hyperthymesia, or highly superior autobiographical memory, which is a rare condition where, you can remember abnormally large numbers of life experiences in great detail. So that probably explains, why I'm able to kind of put together these kinds of lists in a very way that makes me kind of go nuts. I don't know. But yeah, so that's not what's making me feel. There's another thing. It's a long story. Okay, we don't need to get into long stories here because then, we'd be here all day and then it becomes a therapy session and we don't want that. So, but one album per band because I like to torture myself, but again, this wasn't quite so hard. Got a little bit harder than top 10, but this is 20 through 11 and next week will be the top 10. So, let's get going. Starting with a few albums that I actually don't own. This is in no particular order, by the way. The Vapors. Nuclear Days. This is a phenomenal album. It has a song, Turning Japanese, which is like their biggest hit, the song they're best known for, and which, could be considered kind of a, politically incorrect song. It's also been called a masturbation song, also tied into it being politically incorrect. But actually, the writer of the song, the lead singer of the Vapors, has said that song just nonsense. It's just meant to be like a breakup song, and he's going crazy. A volcano ready to erupt. I'm turning Japanese. That's what's happening to me. In the sense of the song, of course. But yeah, this is a phenomenal album. This is a band, when you listen to this album, you think they could have been so much bigger, and should have been so much bigger. It sounds like a Clash album in parts. It really underrated, great album. If you only know the song Turning Japanese, definitely listen to this whole album. If you've never heard it, it is phenomenal. I might be overrating it, but I think it's phenomenal. Next I'm going... Television, Marquee Moon. An album that took me a long time to truly get, but when I got it, it's like, wow, this album is sensational. It actually took watching the movie The Driller Killer, which I watched in great focus for the now lost episode of Features of the Night, where I hosted the Driller Killer. And that's all movies takes place the sort of punk new wave scene in 1970s New York City, just when new wave and punk was really or new wave was starting to come in, like 79. And then that Television was part of that scene. But they were one of the bands that were like pioneering like more the new wave thing. And I was watching this movie, trying to, do the thing for features of the night. And I started listening to Television, Marquee Moon, and it was like, I get it now. So yeah, had to include this album just because it just took me a while to truly get it. And when I got it, I absolutely love this album. I mean, the opening track, See No Evil, is so cool. Whoa. And there's even songs in here that even kind of go into prog territory. Like, that's what's cool about new wave as opposed to punk, is that new wave could kind of go in these different directions, include all these other like elements like pop, and still has the punk feel to it, but then you kind of go into progressive rock, and have these sort of longer songs and these kind of jams and stuff. So, yeah, had to have Television, Marquee Moon. Another one, I don't know when it comes to, it's the last time I have to hold my finger up. Missing Persons, Spring Session M. This is a great album. Again, this was Dale Bozzio and Terry Bozzio, husband and wife. They met during the recording of Frank Zappa's Joe's Garage. And Terry Bozzio was playing drums. They met, put together Missing Persons, and they just made a great album. This is like a new wave classic. I mean, this is kind of the big hit off of here was the song Words, but there's other great songs like Ain't None of Your Business. One of my favorite tunes from the album. Like, so good. Also, Noticeable One. Absolutely love that song. Probably my favorite song on the album is Noticeable One. Just love it. The attitude on it is so cool. Yeah. And also, I mean, Dale Bozzio, the dresses, some of the dresses she used to wear. Woo! Yeah. And also Terry Bozzio, at least when he was drumming with Frank Zappa, would sometimes drum in this little Speedo. Woo! Hot couple, let me tell you. So yeah, Spring Session M, Missing Persons. Okay. Now, some albums I actually have physical copies of. The Knack. Get the Knack. Now, I actually hadn't revisited this album till like putting together this list. I mean, of course, My Sharona was the big song, and at the time, they were kind of accused of being like a Beatles knockoff. And when I listened to it the first time, like, I knew My Sharona, of course, but I listened to it the first time, I thought, it is kind of a Beatles knockoff. But then I listened to it again, I was like, this album's actually really good. This is actually a new wave classic. Great tunes on here. Let Me Out, Your Number or Your Name, She's So Selfish. Yeah. A lot of songs about underage girls, though, so you kind of feel dirty listening to the song. I mean, My Sharona's about a relationship with Doug Fieger with like an underage girl. His like 16, 17-year-old girlfriend. There's also a song called That's What Little Girls Do. Good Girls Don't. How old is this good girl? Doug Fieger has since passed away. There he is there. Wherever he is, he's probably on trial. Wherever he is in the afterlife, a judge is across from him. Somebody's initials on this. It's SM. Because, you used to take albums to parties and you put your initials on it, so you go, oh, this is my album, so when at the end of this party I can take this home so you don't get mixed up with your records. Like, yeah, okay, just give me this back and so my name on it. So they would say so. So this is probably like, I would say this is probably like Susan Matheson. That's the name I'm giving this person, because, it's probably a girl's album. Because, like in the 70s, I'm just going to say it's a girl because, like, in the 70s, like, every girl's name was, like, Linda or Susan. A lot of Lindas and Susans. So I'm saying this is probably Susan Matheson's album. She's completely fictional. But yeah, had to have the knack. Get the knack. Next I'm going Sod and the Next. Their debut album, their self-titled album, pretty well their only album. This is like the only full studio album they actually did. I think they did like an EP a bit later, did a couple songs here and there, but really this is their only full-length album. And it's great. And last time I talked to this, I was wearing a blindfold. Okay. But yeah, great tunes on here. You got Prisoner, which was kind of sort of the hit. It's actually covered later on by Uriah Heep. Also, Sheena Easton did it. I, Me, love that tune. Yeah, this is a great album. And it looked very new wave. Sod and the Next. Love it. Okay, next I'm going the Rubinoos, Back to the Drawing Board. I mean, this is actually, you could say, a power pop album, but sounds very new wave. I mean, I don't know what else you could really call it other than power pop or new wave. 1979, kind of right at the start of, like, you know, punk is starting to kind of morph into what you would call new wave. And this is just a great album. I mean, Rubinoos were an interesting band. They actually did the theme song for Revenge of the Nerds in 1984, doing their best Devo impression. For years I thought that was Devo, then I found it was this band called the Rubinoos. And I listened to this album, and this is great. I mean, it has their probably their biggest hit, I Want to Be Your Boyfriend, which they actually end up suing Avril Lavigne over when she did her song Girlfriend, which they thought sounded too much like I Want to Be Your Boyfriend. Okay. Hey, you, like... People say hey, you in songs. I don't know where I'm going with this. But, yeah. Fallen in Love, so good. Jennifer. Operator. Arcade Queen. Great. Love it. There they are in the back. They're real selves, not drawn. Rubinoos. Alright, next I'm going, this might be a little controversial, but No Doubt, Tragic Kingdom. See, this was like new wave in the 90s. I mean, No Doubt were so influenced by new wave music that that's what they did. And at the time it was just like, oh, this is just like fun pop, like bubblegum pop, you know. But they always had like interesting songwriting. That's what I love about No Doubt. And Gwen Stefani's such a great songwriter. And this album, I mean, it was so, the fact that it just blew up, and it's just such a very retro album from 1995. I mean, just a lot of the big tunes on here. Some of my favorite No Doubt songs, of course, like Spiderwebs, Excuse Me Mister, Just a Girl, classic. They also got a couple really long, kind of proggy, The Climb, 6:37, Tragic Kingdom, the title track is really cool. That's 5 minutes and 31, so, you know, they're doing, you know, some longer songs there, 5 minutes, 31 seconds. Of course, Don't Speak, that was the huge hit. Sunday Morning, Love, Happy Now is a great tune. Yeah, but yeah, this is a great album. Love No Doubt. Love Gwen Stefani. Alright, here's a one-off. Cyndi Lauper, She's So Unusual. Now, I did a pop episode a long time ago, and I included this. But it could be new wave. I mean, so much of it is influenced by new wave, and Cyndi Lauper looks so new wave. I mean, look at her. Who is this girl, Cyndi Lauper? And why is she so unusual?
Who is this girl, Cyndi Lauper, and why is she so unusual?
Yeah. Love this. Of course, girls just want to have fun. I mean, this is like a perfect album. Every song is great. When You Were Mine, very new wave sounding, Prince cover. She Bop, classic. A couple of my favorites, and my favorite song on the album probably is Yeah Yeah. Love that. I'll Kiss You as a very new wave synthesizer. So yeah, I'm including this one because you could argue it's new wave. Cyndi Lauper definitely looked new wave. She fit in there, and there's her feet. All right, another one-off. David Bowie jumped on the new wave train with Let's Dance. The more I thought about it, I felt like I had to include this. I listened to it again and I thought, oh, this is so great. I'm not going to wait to do a David Bowie show to talk about this. I'm going to talk about it now in this new wave episode because, I mean, you could argue this is a new wave album. I mean, Modern Love is a classic. China Girl, a collaboration with Iggy Pop. They wrote that tune together. And Iggy Pop is considered the godfather of punk. So he, is influence there on the punk and what would become new wave. He also did a new wave album himself. Let's Dance, of course, the big hit, the title track. Ricochet I always really liked. Cat People, the theme song to the 1982 remake of the 1943 horror movie Cat People. Just love this version. I mean, this is probably one of my favorite David Bowie tunes. Just love it. I love that version of Cat People. Directed by Paul Schrader. Yeah. Shake It. It's a really cool tune. Yeah, just love this album. David Bowie. And closing out part one is another sort of one-off, the Alan Parsons Project, Ammonia Avenue. Alan Parsons did a lot of kind of different things. They were progressive rock, but they kind of got into kind of like an early influence kind of on sort of electronic kind of music. Very pioneering, very cool. And this was sort of their foray into new wave. They did a couple others, but this was kind of their first one. I mean, it's just great tunes on here. Prime Time, love it. Don't Answer Me is absolutely beautiful. You put that song on right now, I just start blubbering like a baby. I'd break down and cry. I cannot listen to that song without just breaking down. Such a beautiful song. You Don't Believe, love it. Pipeline, so cool, really cool instrumental. Yeah. Ammonia Avenue, Alan Parsons Project. There's a bunch of guys with their faces, looks like trays of topsoil, trays of hummus. Yeah. Weird imagery, but love this Alan Parsons Project. So there you go. That's 20 through 11 of my 20 favorite new wave albums. Next week will be the top 10. We'll see what happens there. That's it for this week. Until we meet again, this is Brett Strong saying good journey.